I'm Thunder Walker with the Thunder Walker Experience, experiencing pressure news media. Yes, we launched at MJBiz, and so we're going to give you some of the cream of the crop, letting you sneak peek into some very controversial subjects. And what is controversial when it comes to cannabis? Money, banking, real estate, all those things that gives longevity into the industry. So I have Terry Mendez next to me, and I just really want to introduce him to my audience. So Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and your position there.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor was the very first cannabis bank in the country. Our founder, Sunday Siegfried, was the one that was going to the Senate hearings and the congressional hearings to get the FinCEN letter passed in 2014 that allowed for and built the framework for cannabis banking. There's also cold memos out there, and it really created a dichotomy. Banks don't normally get involved in preventing minors to have access to a product.
Right.
They don't usually get involved in making sure that a basket doesn't have cannabis and kids' toy in it. Right? And so we built a system, a compliance system, that allowed for the protection of the U.S. banking system while allowing people to bank, really deposit their cash into that system. Before that, it was cash under the mattress and people getting robbed, and we thought that, we should fix that. About 9 months ago, I was asked to join Safe Harbor and help them with the new strategic direction. And I'm a little different. First of all, I wasn't a legacy cannabis. Right? I grew up as a financial services guy in the .com and technology space. And I was asked to help a cannabis company figure out why they were losing money when weed was selling at $2,000 a pound. And to be honest with you, if somebody asked me to buy a joint in Denver at that time and put a gun to my head and said, "Get me a joint," I would have been dead because I wouldn't know where to find a joint in Denver.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Well, I can't find out. Fast forward 6 years, I've been the CEO of a single state operator, CEO of a multi-state operator, and now the CEO of a fifth cannabis banking solution that we're expanding to. It's been a hell of a journey, and it's been great.
I wish more of our audience and more people in the industry would understand how important banking is. There's still people putting things up under the mattress, and there's still banks that are really taking advantage of the loopholes. One of the banks that because I'm vertical, one of the banks that I first interviewed with to have my dispensary gave me the example of, hey, we don't want you to come into our bank. We don't want you to come into the lobby. We're going to meet you at a private area. Yeah, we're going to, you leave your money with us at 24 to 48 hours later. We're going to let you know how much you deposit. And for that experience, you're going to pay us $1,500 a month. Now, fast forward, I've been in this industry for a very long time for legacy and legal, and I waited on that opportunity because it was not the opportunity for me. But there's still kind of some gouging on prices and things like that. What could you tell us to do as business owners to search for that right particular opportunity?
I don't care if you're picking a bank, you're picking someone to buy cocoa from or trellis from, or you're going to finance your ModTech machine, right? Or you're picking a payroll service. You want folks that are going to be transparent about the fact that you're in cannabis. Right now, what do companies do? They create legal entities with bogus names to hide the fact that you're in cannabis so that your employees can cash their checks.
Or have a mortgage.
Or have a mortgage.
Yeah.
Auto loan. One of the very first things I did was I unlocked employee banking across our platform. I can bank 500,000 employees, right? We can give them mortgages. I can give them auto loans, overdraft protection, because I wanted the financial institutions that we work with to understand that you can't say you're cannabis friendly and create those types of barriers.
Right.
Now, I understand you don't want someone walking in because it's not safe, not because we don't love you, but it's not safe to walk in with $50,000 in a purse and drop it on the thing.
Dollar bills. Okay?
Yeah, no, like we want you to be safe.
Right.
And I'd much rather have an armored car service pick that up and drop it off at a Fed location. But there's no reason for you to wait 3 days for your money to clear process. There's solutions now. And one of the things that I've done in the last 9 months is to make sure as an operator, I now have the financial institution and the operator experience. I know these problems firsthand. You know, when the first person told me I had a $1,500 bank account, I was like, for what? You don't get it, right? Now what's happened? Interest rates went up.
Right.
Because interest rates went up, the cost of those bank accounts, we could share that effect. And the cost of having a cannabis bank account went down. As interest rates go down, the question is, does the cost of having that bank account go up? Why is the cost higher? It's not because we're price gouging at $1,500. I thought that. Why it's not higher? Because it's a very manual process, and now we have technologies that help that. But in the beginning, it was a very manual process to know in the state of Colorado. Well, you know what? In Colorado Springs, you can only do rec, right? But in Denver, I'm sorry, medical. In Denver, you can do rec and medical. But in Fort Collins, it's only rec and not medical. You need to know that for every state and every jurisdiction.
Oh, I love
And then
that.
not only do I need to know that for every state and every jurisdiction, I need to know as the financial institution, what are you carrying on both? So, for example, you're sharing T-shirts, that's cool, no problem, right? You're carrying test trucks or Tonka trucks, that's a problem. You're carrying adult material, that's a problem. And I might pull that in. How do that situation? Really? Because we look at the requirements of the clear memos that we issue. Where he's requiring a bank to get a penalized if you have something on your shelf that isn't regulated
Wow.
or not related to your product. You know what I mean?
Gary, I need you to remove some fish from me.
Yeah, go for it.
This may sound really crazy, but you know, we're pressure, so we want to know. When you get the money from the dispensaries, the grow, the processors, some of the biggest complaints out there or some of the myths is, does the money really smell like weed?
Oh man, you know what? It depends. So the answer is no if it's coming from a dispensary.
Okay.
But I ran multiple grows, right? And if the money is coming in from like a B2B sale, like I'm wholesaling between grows, and the money's coming in between grows, it absolutely smells like weed. And not only does it smell like weed, I'll give you an example. When I first took my first cannabis job, they gave me this book. They wanted to run the company on something called the Enterprise Operating System. It was a small book. And I brought it to me so I can, you know, when you go to a kid's like, you know, band concert or orchestra concert, you're really only there to see your kid.
Right.
But you're there for an hour.
Right.
And your kid plays for 5 minutes, right? And so during that hour, I'm paging through this book, and literally everyone in this junior high school turning around, and you're like, who's smoking this place? And I'm like, why are they all staring at me? Because the book smelled like cannabis. And I flew. And my wife's like, put it away now.
I love that answer. But we're getting the truth, and that's what pressure really wants, because if you're operating in this circle and you're really trying to figure out why it's a little bit more expensive, you need to know, you need to really understand what's happening. Got another question for you.
Go for it.
Okay, so you made a huge point in understanding banking for the employee. They want to buy their own cars, they want to buy their own houses and things like that. And a lot of times they're getting ready to refinance in this market and they're going with a bank that they had previously before they started working in cannabis. They don't realize that they could get shut down immediately.
100%.
So tell us a little bit about this.
I was an owner's banker. I didn't have equity. But in order to make hire and fire decisions in the state of Colorado, you needed to have an owner's bank. It was a red med company. And so I got that so I could help the company turn around. And I was making real decisions for that company, and I eventually became the CEO of that company. When I left that company, 2 years later, my bank, I won't name the bank, I almost did, but my bank called my mortgage, my 401k account, they called my bank. So just as Joe Biden was taking on the presidency, I get the letter that accounts are shut down. Now,
And
if you
that
remember,
happens a lot.
it was scary.
Yeah.
Right? Now I have to come up with how do I refinance my mortgage? And by the way, every dollar I owned was with this bank. And it's locked up. Stock market tanked for the first 2 months. I lost a couple $100,000, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Thank God I recovered it over time. But it took 2 years to recover what I lost in 2 years. Okay.
Exactly.
Right? And the reality of it was most of the national financial institutions have a prohibition against banking cannabis. So you could, in my case, I was consulting to the cannabis industry. And because I had an owner's badge and because I had a check that I deposited from a cannabis grow, they decided to shut me down. So when I took this role, I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this for not only the businesses, but the employees. And there's no reason to treat an employee. By the way, employees of cannabis organizations, they make money. You know, and so you're making $75 grand a year, you're just the same as the average other person making $75 grand a year. And you're in the top 3 or 4% of earners in this country. Right? If you're a controller, you're a CFO, gosh, how can you not be a CFO and making $200 grand a year and you want to buy a house and you have to be worrying that, you know, Wells Fargo is going to call the mortgage. That's crazy sauce.
That's crazy sauce. I love that. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper. I know you said you were into school. That means you're a parent,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So how many children do you have?
I got 2. My son is 19 years old. He's at Colorado State University. And my daughter is turning 16 soon, and she's a sophomore in school.
So tell me, their friends, their teachers, all of that. Dad sells or he participates in the cannabis industry. How does that go over for them?
So my daughter, when she was in 5th grade, they asked what the parents do. And at that time, I was the single state operator in Colorado. And she told the teacher that I was a drug dealer. Okay?
Because she wanted to put some power with it. Listen, give me the A. Daddy is a drug dealer.
So this teacher gives me a call and she goes, "Is there something I should know?" The teacher was fine. I told her what I was doing, and she was all good. But it's kind of a fun, situation. The other day, she had her friends over, and they looked me up on LinkedIn, and they did a search on me, and they did a search on all parents. Kids don't know what the parents do.
Right.
And for whatever reason, mine came up with 500 hits all about cannabis, and it became like I was a little like rock star amongst her friends. You know what I mean? It was cute, but it's just interesting. The biases exist even today amongst the junior high and high school students, where there's, just like there was in the 80s and 90s, people that were in and people that were not in and didn't really understand. And it's interesting as you're trying
It should not be scary. But you know what? There's a balance there where, because it's a little bit rebellious and everything, it makes it kind of interesting too. And so, as much as we want to remove the stigma, we lose something in the sauce.
Cigarettes still has the sauce. There's that stigma around it. And then the stigma came back. Right? Then all of a sudden the stigma came back. Now you can only smoke in designated areas. You can no longer smoke on the plane.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. So it went from stigma to no stigma to stigma. Yet it's a multi-billion-dollar industry where individual companies by themselves are billion-dollar. It's a multi-billion-dollar. And so it's an evolution. And I don't know that evolution is good or bad. I tell people all the time, your responsibility as a father, as a parent, right, is to make sure no matter what politics are, if you lose it in office and administration, and you find a pathway for success for you in that situation. And I think the same thing with the industry. No matter what the regulatory environment is, no matter what the stigma is, you've got to carve out and find that pathway for success in your business, because your business supports people. Right? And I come up to work every day, and I've had teams of thousands and teams millions of tents, right? But my job every day is to make sure those people can feed their family.
I love that. I love that. You know what's interesting about this industry? You hear everything on the street. I'm out of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was the wild, wild west. Literally, I opened my dispensary right next door to a dispensary, and I didn't think it was an issue in my mind because of the fact when I go to a Walgreens, I see a CVS. When I go to Burger King, I see a Wendy's. So in my mind, I was okay with it because even shopping, you get a chance to have short choice. But I learned very quickly that in this industry, they see it as an issue. They see it as competition. They see it as saturation. The other
Who's that?
just society.
Customers?
No,
Governments.
business owners and government and legislation. What do you say to that? What do you say to competition?
You know, no, I know, but also competition at all. Competition keeps you alive in a week. You have to be creative. It forces the creative juices and you need to stay nimble, right? And so when you have a dispensary side by side, why does CVS and Walgreens both have customers that are side by side? They've differentiated their brands from each other, and some have loyalty programs with CVS, some have loyalty with Walgreens, some have pharmacists that I'm friends with versus the pharmacists I'm not friends with.
Some have those long ass receipts.
Right, you know, so there's a reason for that, right? Wendy's is, you know, we got the beef or whatever that is, and Burger King is plain brown.
Right.
Right, they've made a differentiation of what you're going to have and what you're going to experience when you walk into their facilities. Now, if you're going to be side by side, what type of customer are you attracting versus them? And if you're attracting the same customer in the same geography and you're in the same place, you're not going to win. You're not going to win on location. You're not going to win. Where you're going to win is maybe the quality of your marketing, right? Maybe you're going to win on the diversification of your market. Maybe you understand that your customer makes 55 to 75% a year, and for the pricing on your stuff has to be here in order for them to say yes, versus this guy is guessing next door. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the data is so important to make sure that you're making decisions faster than the guy next door. And that's what Walgreens and CVS do. I grew up with Fortune 500. You know, my history has been big companies. Need who drives everything those companies do. And they're just as screwed up as any clothes company that there's screw-ups everywhere. But the reality is, you can make decisions faster, better deals, better supply chain. You're going to be
I love that. I love that. Last question, you guys. Really, really good deal. You know, in this space, a lot of people think that there's brokenness. They think that it's very hard to succeed. Is there still two questions? Is there still money out there that you can raise to further your dreams, to further your cannabis dream? And if so, you have a startup, no matter if it's a newspaper or if it's a branded product. What would you suggest? Can you give us 3 pointers on how to project your 2026 out?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give you a bunch. So, look, if you're starting out in the cannabis industry, absolutely, this is not for the faint, right? It's complex. Having the right group of people or pitchers that have been through trials, so you don't make the same mistakes that those people have made is critical. One of the things I've done as a barber, because I've now tried to run a couple of cannabis organizations, is we built a business process outsourcing team of all operators, people that have been in the industry for years, have had the work scars, and we'll help you stand up credit and collection, or EP, or working capital solutions, or, you know, even your first marketing. You know, people are paying $300,000 to build a brand, and you sit back and say, there's a lot of brands out there. How are you going to differentiate your brand if you don't have the answers to those questions? Don't spend $300,000-$400,000 to build your brand. Right? There's other ways to differentiate yourself. You know, people are looking for capital. There's really partial requirements. If you don't have there's no SBA loans, right? Because it's federally illegal.
Right.
So that's a closed door. Lots of banks do not bank. 92% of the financial institutions in this country do not bank it, right? So that's 8% or less. Now you have to Wow, about 8%. And most of those banks only lend if you have collateral. They want a mortgage, you have a house to mortgage against, right? If you have no collateral, now we're taking a risk on the quality of your Shark Tank presentation, right? And so if you're going to have a Shark Tank presentation, you got to have a team that knows how to tell that story. Because if you just walk in and not know your audience, you don't know the story you need to tell to get what you want. We're creating that. I'm creating something called the lending tree of cannabis. I'm using that as a term. It's not lending tree of cannabis, but
Right, don't call us. It's not lending tree.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But I'm using that as an example to people to understand. I want you to call Safe Harbor so that we can help you either get ready to raise capital or do what's called a sim document, create the story, and then we'll help you find whether it's equity or debt capital out there. We just did a situation with a gentleman who was starting his first dispensary in Massachusetts, and he needed $150,000. And he had no anything. There was no collateral, no anything, and yet told a good story. And we got one of our partners to put 150 grand on a credit card, and he had access to the $150,000 on the credit card. It's not exactly what he asked for, but it was a solution that'll let him start his business.
See, that's what we're talking about. This guy, he understands pressure. I am so grateful that you sat down with me at MJBizCon. Tell them where they can find you on LinkedIn, where they can find your company, because this was an amazing conversation.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. So real quick, Safe Harbor is shfinancial.org. That's our website. I'm on LinkedIn, Terrence Mendez, and follow us on Safe Harbor Financial on LinkedIn. But I'm also going to give you my cell phone because I want us to feel small. We're a NASDAQ traded company, SHFS. My cell is 631-418-7763. And people say I'm crazy for doing this. But like the guy who used to put his social security number on the truck and said, try to steal it. You know what? I want to talk to you guys. I want you guys to be successful, and I don't want you to have to deal with the same nonsense that the first and second generation investors went through.
I love that. Thank you so much. This is Pressure News Media. I'm Thunder Walker with the Thunder Walker Experience, and I am doing my best to show you the truth in cannabis. Thank you so much. That was amazing. You gave